As we may know that during history back then, there was many horrible and tragic events, but what I will be presenting to you is by far one of the most horrible events that had happened to somebody. So, in the dark times of history, there was once a young girl whose diary had changed the world with her remarkable story. She gave us a glimpse of how the world was once so fearful and horrific. A young girl who was a Jewish victim of the most horrific tragedies of all time history. How wonderful it is that nobody needs to wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. A quote by Gerald Vanderstrom and Anne Frank tells from The Secret Annex, a collection of her short stories. Anne Frank was born on June 12, 1929. She was born in Germany in a city called Frankfurt. She was raised by both her parents, Odo and Edith Frank. Not to mention, Anne also had a sister, an older sister named Margot Frank. Growing up for Anne, it was very difficult. They mostly faced poverty. They were very poor during this time. So her parents struggled, and so did Anne. Not to mention, during this time, Hitler had also had a hatred towards Jewish people and had no respect for them whatsoever. So they decided to move to the Netherlands. AnneFrank.org wrote an article written by Anne Frankhouse stated the hatred of Jews and the poor economic situation made Anne's parents, Odo and Edith Frank, decide to move to Amsterdam. After moving to Amsterdam, their life has slowly started to improve a little bit, but not so much. Anne, though, on the other hand, she very much enjoyed going to school. At her new school, she made lots of new friends, and she was happy because she didn't have to fear that nobody didn't like her or had people hate on her, so that was good for them. After moving to Amsterdam, Anne had made lots of friends at her new school, like I mentioned. During her 13th birthday, she was gifted a diary. According to German diarist Michael Bernabaum, on June 12, 1942, she received a red and white plaid diary for her 13th birthday. In 1941, sadly, the Nazis came and captured the Netherlands. After moving away, Odo and Edith thought they could protect their children in another place, but sadly, the Nazis had to come to the Netherlands. So, Anne's family suffered a lot during these times. They had to live in fear of getting captured by the Nazis. So, they had to hide for 2 years in a room. The Holocaust was the genocide of 6 million Jews by the Nazis during World War II. It was a dark chapter in history where millions of innocent lives were lost due to hatred and discrimination. So, when Anne Frank was living during these times, she had to face all of this and had to experience all of this that's going on, and it was very difficult for her. So, during this time, Anne would distract herself by writing down her feelings and what she had seen throughout the years in her diary. Since she had to hide, she wasn't able to go out that much outside or communicate with others, but her family. Anyways, during this time, Anne would distract herself by writing down her feelings and what she had seen throughout the years in her diary. According to History.com, it states addressing her diary entries to an imaginary friend she called Kitty. Anne Frank wrote about life in hiding, including her impressions of the inhabitants of the secret annex, her feelings of loneliness, and her frustration over the lack of privacy. So during these times, Anne had suffered a lot because she wasn't able to do what others were doing right now. she had to live in fear and hiding. So Anne and her family had soon been discovered in hiding when someone betrayed their hiding place to the authorities. So now the Nazis are gonna come for them. After they were captured, they were all taken into custody and transported to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. During 1945, Anne and her sister died of typhus. Although Anne is gone, she is still remembered by her braveness and her first point of view of what had been going on during this terrible time. Everything that was in that diary, she wrote what she saw and what she experienced and what she heard. I think it's crazy that this book holds so much history that we now don't live in, which is very crazy to think about. Although Anne is gone, she is still remembered by her braveness. Her diary had been published all over the world to raise awareness and educate those about how the horrible Holocaust was and how many people lost their lives. These poor people were sadly murdered just because of their religion. Her written words, hidden away in an attic, have become a symbol of courage and resilience. Through her diary, we got a glimpse of how awful times were. Anne Frank's story is an inspiration on how we should stand against discrimination. Her words continue to inspire and remind us the power of resilience and hope. Without Anne Frank's diary, we wouldn't know how much these poor people suffered during these times. That's why I chose Anne for this speech, because she really stood out to me, and I'm hoping you guys could get more information and learn more about her through me.